Hey friends, real quick, I have a new bundle that I'm offering. I would like to help you with your reads more directly than I can do in this video channel. My new bundle is called Reinvent Your Reads, and it includes a 30-minute one-to-one Zoom conversation where I can listen to your reads, I can see your reads, we can talk about what you're doing, and I'll give you a few immediate action steps to make them better. And the bundle continues with 3 sessions of First Monday's Read Club so that you can follow up on the things that you've learned, so that you can ask follow-up questions, so that you can bring new questions to us, and so that you can feel what it is like to be a part of my warm and lovely community. Because the world is a better place when more oboists are happily, effortlessly playing on their instruments and on their reeds. And I can help you. Thanks for considering. The link is in the description below. Now our episode. Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5 Minute Reedmaker. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and click subscribe for me. That way, you always know when I drop a new episode, and it's easier for other people to find my channel and to become better reedmakers and happier musicians. Thank you. I wanted to talk today about making reeds to play in a woodwind quintet. This came up for a couple of my Invincible Oboist Flow participants toward the end of the season, and I have heard from a lot of people, actually, who say, I cannot figure out how to make a reed for this group. I feel terrible when I play in woodwind quintet. I feel like the weakest link. I think my reeds are awful. And I would like to share that you are not alone. All this to say, I've played a lot of quintets. And never once have I felt like the strongest link in the wind quintet. And I think there are a couple of reasons for this. Number one, in a wind quintet, you are playing all the time, right? The oboe voice is 20% of the personnel in the wind quintet, and by the nature of the way things are written, we play very continuously. You have to have a reed that allows you to just keep playing. The wind quintet requires you to be incredibly flexible as a player. You have to be able to play infinitesimally softly, to be, to act like a second flute or a second clarinet, to act like part of the woodwind color overall, to offer tiny dynamics for small, intimate spaces, which is not usually where oboes shine. And within this very same piece, you have to be able to come out and be oboe at everyone. When it is your solo, you need to come fully to the fore. When it is not your solo, you need to vanish into the woodwind sound. When you're in the wind quintet, it feels so easy for the flute and the clarinet and the French horn to be round and silvery and smooth and dark and blended. And the oboe, this double reed instrument, and to a slightly lesser extent the bassoon. The bassoon has the same issue but also has their own role. The oboe always sounds a little like an open wound. There's always a little in contrast to the quality that a flute can bring. So it feels like we are sticking out a lot. And when we don't really take care of things, we're sticking out a lot. So to play in the wind quintet well, you need to have a great deal of flexibility and control so that you can change both the dynamic and the sound quality instantly, like on a dime, changing from being the solo voice to being a part of the whole. You need to be able to play tiny dynamics and very large ones. You need to be able to not project when it is not time for you to project, and to project. And generally, when you're playing in a wind quintet, you're not playing in a gigantic concert hall. I'm not saying that no one does that, but we are normally not playing in a 2,000 seat, 3,000 seat auditorium. We are playing in like the cafeteria of a senior center. We are playing in the gym of an elementary school. We are playing inside a small carpeted classroom. There's a million ways you can use a wind quintet. That is the joy of a wind quintet, is it can fit into a small and flexible space. It is chamber music designed to be played in a chamber. So what we don't necessarily need to do is to be able to like send sound for, you know, a football field's distance away. What we do need to be able to do is blend and disappear our sound and keep playing for 45 minutes to an hour, basically nonstop. And this is a difficult thing to ask a reed to do. You can get away with a lot in the orchestra. I'm not saying that we don't need to have flexibility and dynamics within the group, within an orchestra, but everything is scaled up a little bit in an orchestra. Even your softest softs need to project past a sea of strings and into an auditorium that is presumably filled with people. Because an orchestra isn't ever going to play in a small space for 17 humans in the audience. That's just not economically viable. We always have a big hall. And so everything we do in the orchestra is scaled, is big, is projected. I'm always using my outside voice when I play in the orchestra. And in the quintet, I often need to use my inside voice. And that is not something that we train as much when we are practicing, because we're thinking about how do we like use our bodies in the most free way to produce a beautiful, large, projected sound. Okay, so these are all of the reasons that I find playing in the quintet to be very difficult. Sometimes, often, the music itself is very difficult and technical, because we don't have the sea of strings to do the busy stuff while we count rests. We're doing all of the stuff. So that's why it's hard. What do we do about it? How do we make reeds for it? I'm going to start with the broad generalization that an older reed is going to tend to be better in the quintet than a newer one. It's a generalization. It's not always true. But my best quintet experiences have been on a reed that I have already taken into the orchestra, that I have already played for a few rehearsals, a concert or two. I'm not talking about the like scrappy, crumbly, grayish looking reeds that are just sort of still in my case, even though they probably should have been gotten rid of by now. I am talking about a reed that no longer seems to have quite the oomph that you want in the orchestra. I am talking about a reed that is comfortable, that is a little more closed, that is a little bit more muted, and that you have already sort of made your peace with. You have already muscled it into submission. You have already figured out where the contact point is with that reed, where the articulation point is with that reed. Generally, after it's been broken in quite thoroughly in an orchestra, that reed is great for playing in quintet. It still has the stuff it needs. It still has the soloistic quality that you like worked into it for the orchestra experience, but it's no longer fighting you so much. It's no longer wide open. So that's the first thing, is I would look, if my reeds sort of range from oldest on the left side of my case to newest in the right side of my case, I might be in like the leftmost 20%. 30%, maybe between 10 and 30% of the reeds in my case. So that's thought one. Make sure that you have broken in that reed already and that you're not trying to bring a new reed in and muscle it while you are also trying to create all of the flexibility and all of the blending and all of the constant playing that a quintet requires. But maybe you don't have an old reed right now, or your old reeds are all too old, or you haven't had an orchestra gig in a while, but you do have a quintet job coming up. What do you do? The things that I would really think about in my reed are, I want to make sure that as much as possible, I have a core sound that is not too bright, too buzzy, too like, oh bow, not too Ethel Merman-y. And to get to that, I nearly always will pet the kitty, and I will pet the kitty with great aggression. I do have a video about that, so you can watch what I mean by that, but effectively I'm scraping the sides and corners of the tip, which will always improve the sound, improve the articulation, and improve the opening of the reed, the tip opening of the reed. And so that's the first thing that I would do. If I'm on my way into a quintet, I'm gonna like pet the kitty a little bit more. The other thing that I would probably prioritize on my way into the quintet if I'm working with a new reed is I'm going to take wood out of the windows, and especially in that sort of sweet spot right behind the heart, because I do not want my reed to be too open or too uncomfortable as I go in. Because if I go in biting, I'm going to exhaust myself really quickly, and I'm not going to have the flexibility that I need. So I need my reed to be open, to be closed, so that I can play it open. So I need my reed to be fairly closed so that I can play it in an open and relaxed way. Which is why I will go intentionally into the windows, into the spine even, and break it down a little bit so that my reed is easier to play. And generally I find that a reed that is a little more closed is easier to play. Your mileage may vary. You might be a person who requires an open reed with a lot of spring to it, with a lot of vibrancy to it. I will never tell you that you're doing it wrong. I offer only my own experience and what I have found to work for me. I can't be working too hard to play that reed in a quintet because there's a lot else going on. There's a lot that is required of me as a player, and there's a lot that is required of me as a colleague in a quintet. Sure, if you're just walking into a performance, you sit down and you do the job as best you can. But if you're walking into a rehearsal, you also have 20% of the responsibility for how can we make this better? So there's also the attentional work, the presence of being mindful of what's going on around you and how does your part fit in and where are things breaking down and can you offer a good suggestion for that? It's a lot, and I don't want to be focused on this little piece of damp wood in my mouth. I just want it to be easy, and that's what I try to do. Tell me, if you are an experienced woodwind quintet player, how do you think about your reeds? What do you need them to be? Is there anything that I've said that you're like, no, that's not right for me? Let me know in the comments, because having conversations around these topics is how we learn, and it is okay if your opinion is different from mine. I hope that this has been a helpful session. This has been a 5-Minute Reedmaker episode. You can find these short videos here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish. I hope you will. And if you need to reach me to order reeds or cane, or a copy of my book, The Happiest Musician, or to reach out with a question that I could answer in a future 5-Minute Reedmaker episode, you can find me at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.